Hey, saltwater anglers, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, your local report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. This podcast is part of the Great Days Outdoors Network, and each week we'll be talking to local experts to learn ways we can become better anglers in our pursuits offshore, nearshore, and inshore. To keep this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for generations to come, remember to protect what you pursue. Summer fishing is fired up with warm water and hungry fish moving into the bay. So let's hear who's making this show possible, and then we'll jump into the reports. Check it out. AFTCO has a gift for our listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For cool mornings, I love my Reaper sweatshirt. And on those hot days, my Samurai sun shirt. You just can't beat the quality and performance. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, y'all, welcome to this week's show. We are sitting right here on the cusp of Hurricane Aaron, but it has not slowed down fishing over the past couple of weeks, especially offshore. So I'm excited to talk to a captain that we haven't got to catch up with in a while, Captain Zach Castro with Not Tug and Sport Fishing. Welcome back to the show, Cap. How we been?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Long time no chat since yesterday.
Yeah.
Offshore.
That's right.
I'd like to kick off by I want to get your perspective of, kind of telling our listeners what that was like for you. So we're offshore. We got Starlink on the boat. I figure out how to switch my phone over to Wi-Fi enabled calling. The bite's slow and I call you. Like, what was it like from your perspective of what transpired after I called you?
It was awesome. I was actually sitting there. You were actually on speakerphone. I'm on the tugboat now, so my crew got to hear it. And a couple of them have fished with me, but sitting there telling you to make a turn and go towards this direction. And you say, "Oh, you got a fish on." Me and my crew, we were all laughing. It was great. And then to get the picture after was even better.
Right. Like the only thing worse than that was like, we had a fish on and then it got off. Like, oh, but yeah, I mean, for that to happen, like that sequence to happen so quickly was hilarious. I mean, I could probably go back and look at the track and figure out the time frame of like when I called you. I think it was within like a couple of minutes that you said,
Yep.
"Hey, you should probably put it in a turn and head this way." We got, on that new heading, and then I'm still on the phone with you, and then bang, we get knocked down, and I was like, "I gotta go." So,
Yep, that
and
was
it
awesome.
and it ended up being our only yellowfin tuna, but it was awesome because it was our first yellowfin tuna on my good friend Dave's boat, Bullet One. So that was an awesome way to break that in and get a fish on board. So thank you again, man. Really
Yeah,
invaluable.
man, not a problem. I'm glad
Uh,
I could help, try to do what I can to help whoever I can out.
yeah, I mean, it was. We were close, but we weren't really located exactly in the right spot. And so sure enough, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit too to realize that, out there in the ocean, which is such a big area, that the sort of margin of error can be so small sometimes where like you could be just a half mile or a mile away from where you really should be to get into the bite. I mean, high level, why is that like that sometimes?
I tell you, the fish definitely scattered all through the area. I will tell you, I think it's more or less they're focused on bait, and there's just a lot of bait in that area. I think 3 days of fishing in that spot where I was telling you to go towards, we caught a bunch of fish. We had a limit by like noon, I think, one day, and I never went more than a half a mile from my first bite in 3 days.
Wow.
And it was every time I got in that spot, I'd circle out, see if I could find a bigger concentration of fish, and I never found it there. But we kept doing it and going in that spot, and we'd get a bite. It was mostly all singles every day I fished in there that week. And earlier in the year when we were fishing just a couple miles south of that, it was the same thing. There's quite a few days we didn't go more than half, 3/4 of a mile from our first bite and caught all of our fish right in that same area. They've definitely been very concentrated this year. I think they're getting on bait and just staying real focused on that bait until pretty much the bait's gone or moved. It is the only thing I can come up with. I'm getting the bait marks, and then we're getting the fish right there with it.
That's so interesting. Well, I want to dive
Yeah.
into a couple of your recent trips and really just kind of pick your brain for, some of the offshore tackle and tactics. But before we jump into that, for those that are listening that have maybe never heard your voice before, can you just give us a quick introduction of, who you are, who's not tugging, and what kind of boat do you guys run?
Yeah, I'm Captain Zach Castro. Own Not Tugging Sport Fishing. Boat's Not Tugging. It's a 35-foot Carolina Classic. It's got twin Cummins in it. We primarily offshore fish, and our main focus is tunas. But we do everything from inshore to offshore fishing, wreck fishing included. And like I said, our passion is definitely tuna fishing.
Awesome, man. And you guys are set up for it. I think we've talked in the past. How many rods do you typically run in your spread?
Typically always 12. Sometimes we'll throw a 13th in the mix. You know,
That's that's
and
unbelievable.
I had a new mate. I had a new mate this year, and he'd never experienced that. And this year, actually, he got to witness. We were pulling 12 rods, and all 12 rods went off one day in June when we were fishing, and we got 9 out of 12 fish.
That's that's a feat. I mean, to get
No, yeah,
12 knockdowns is crazy in itself, but then to catch nine of them at the same time, I mean, oh man, that's insane.
yo,
That's
it was
insane.
awesome. I was up there just giggity up in the in the tower laughing, and oh man, my mate, he didn't know what to do. His hands were on his head. He didn't know which way to go.
Oh, I'm sure
But
that's
it was great.
that's just like pure chaos in the best way. Did you have an experienced crew that day, or was it just like,
No, it was a charter.
oh man?
It was a charter. So I'm just up there yelling, which rods, he trying to see which ones to get cross up. I'm just yelling which way to move the rods, and they're untwisting them, and they sit one down, and usually I had the crew, the charter, just I had luckily 6 anglers on the boat, and they were all just reeled one in, and they'd go to the next one.
Goodness, man.
We kept it as untangled as we could, but obviously you're gonna get tangles when you got 12 lines going all different directions.
Yeah, I don't see how you'd avoid it.
No, but we ended up. He actually, I think one of them we had tracker bars out, and I think one of our lines got in with the tracker bar, and they got that fish in. He ended up gaffing that one on the bar, and then had to hand line the rest of the one from where it was tangled into the bar, and we actually got that fish as well.
Wow.
So
Well,
it was a mess, but it was absolute fun, pure chaos.
yeah, I would say a lesson learned for me after tuna fishing yesterday. Once at the fillet table and filleting the fish, the lesson learned is the value and importance of really taking your time and lining up a headshot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because once you're cleaning that fish and you see that giant hole that you put in it and that beautiful that beautiful loin, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Oh
I,
yeah.
I could have easily taken my time, but when you're out there doing something for the first time and then, it was a little nerve-wracking. And I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
anyone listening that's either been in my shoes recently or is going to be in my shoes in the near future as a, first time yellowfin tuna angler. I mean, I've caught the bluefins before, and I've been on charter boats where but it was my first time, hand lining and gaffing a yellowfin tuna. I think I was kind of braced for like the chaos of the bluefin tuna, and I maybe
Yeah.
overthought it a little bit. But going back in time, they're not that huge of a fish. It was like a 40 pounder. It would have been very easy to kind of take my time and line up a really good headshot versus just taking the first clean shot that I had.
Oh,
But
absolutely. I mean, they can be pretty sporadic fish, though. I mean, you sometimes can't help it. Sometimes they'll dart on you right when you're going to stick them, or
mhm.
anything, and you make a little bit of a bad shot. I mean, it's nature of the beast.
Yeah, yeah,
The biggest thing is getting them in the boat. I feel like that's your biggest accomplishment, and if you're once you get good, you can really just focus on just those head shots and stuff like that, and make it a little better. I mean, obviously you don't want to mess up meat, but you know,
well, you
biggest
make
obstacle is getting the one in the boat.
yeah, you're making me feel a whole lot better about my gaff shot now. We got it in the boat. That's what mattered.
That's
Uh,
right.
Especially considering it was our only bite, yellowfin bite yesterday. Um, so looking at your Facebook, you guys have had some really awesome trips. I mean, you've been doing some deep
Yeah.
dropping. I see a couple of marlins have
Hmm.
popped through, but specifically this yellowfin tuna bite that's been going on lately. I'm just curious, like, I want to start high level. What do you think has been making the yellowfin bite so good this year? And you've been fishing for yellowfin for a long time, but like, what is it about this year that is making it so good in your opinion?
I tell you, I wish I had a good answer for you. I don't. So I I have a feeling. I can't say it is right at all. We had a real cold winter, and I had this hunch that once that water got so cold out there, I was like, I have a feeling we're going to get some good eddies this year. It allows your eddies to come in and actually form and not just blend out and blow out the hot water just so immediately.
Hmm.
I feel like that could have been a big factor in it. It's no secret. Obviously, now everybody and their mother knows that these fish have been in the fingers,
Hmm.
which we haven't seen in probably 8 or 10 years like this.
Wow.
Um, I've never seen it this good in the fingers. I mean, I haven't seen any decent fishing in probably 8 or 10 years in there.
Right.
We had a lot of sand eels in there, and these tunas got in there just like the bluefins. They were eating on these sand eels, and I think they got in there and started eating on them, and just all them tunas that we had offshore just pushed in and got them. And we've just been very fortunate. The bait hasn't gone nowhere, so there's no reason for the fish to leave. But I'd say that maybe the cold water did have something to do with it. It allowed the eddies to actually come in here and form and actually hold as an eddy. It may not be. I don't know. It may have just been our year that we got our cards pulled to have good tuna fishing.
Right.
I know we've been very fortunate for it this year. I mean, this is the best tuna fishing I've ever experienced in my life.
I mean, just hearing you say that, it kind of like gives me the chills a little bit to think about
Yeah.
the fact that, I mean, like, I know you just love to target tunas, and this is something you've committed, a huge part of your life to. It's one of your biggest passions, probably your biggest
Yeah.
passion, tuna fishing. So to hear you say it's the best you've seen in your life is pretty remarkable. Um,
Yeah.
and talking about those eddies, so are you kind of saying that, like, if you picture sort of like a sea surface shot and think about like where you see the water lines kind of forming between the different temperature breaks, are you kind of saying that it's maybe allowed it to be a little bit more defined edges that are like easier to identify and find?
I do. I think, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that was a big thing. And not only just your temperature, so to say, as much as we had a lot of chlorophyll, which is your blue water push in, and
Hmm.
a lot of fish came in on that. During the tuna tournament, we weren't really fishing any warm water eddies. There's only like a couple degree break up, to the north there, but there was blue water in there, and that blue water was holding tuna, and that's where a lot of the boats in the tournament ended up fishing was in that chlorophyll, which is the blue water, and there was good catches up there as well as I want to say the day before 2 days before I fished in my tournament day, I actually ran south. I caught tunas down south, and then I ran to the north and fished my tournament day, and we caught them as many as you'd want up there. We were
Man.
actually trying to get away from the smaller class fish. We were only getting in those 30, 40-pound class fish, which wasn't going to win. So we
Hmm.
were leaving fish to try to find the bigger schools.
Wow. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the looking at the chlorophyll and the blue water, it was interesting you said that because I can literally remember specifically looking down at the water shortly after we had that tuna bite, and I even said to my buddy Dave, I said, "Man, I feel like the water looks bluer here,"
Yeah.
and it really did. Like it really took on like that, like almost magenta blue, or I don't even know how you would describe it, but it was bluer. If that,
Hmm.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
say it right. So if I'm thinking about like a chlorophyll shot, if I look at like a chlorophyll shot, like you can see kind of your different gradients. Does the like when you look at a chlorophyll shot, what are you looking for to kind of pick an edge or a spot?
I just try to find your hard blue edge typically is what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
Um, that also being said, it's kind of been a double-edged sword this year. Once those tunas moved inshore, I was catching a lot of them in a dirty green water,
Hmm.
but they had moved in and were on the bait. So I feel like if you got that water and you got the bait there, the blue water moves your fish in, and then the bait holds them, if that makes sense.
It does.
Because
So like,
obviously these fish don't just stay in our inshore waters, near shore waters. They come in from the Gulf Stream,
hmm
and those are in your eddies, whether it's the blue water eddy or a hot water eddy, which that hot water is typically blue as well.
hmm
Um, that brought them in, and then the bait held them in that area. And we were fishing in July, we were fishing in a dirty green water almost every day.
But that's where the bait
But
was.
that's where the bait was.
Got
So
it.
earlier in the year, I'm going to, when I look at that chlorophyll shot, I'm looking for that, the closest blue water change. But if I got a hard, like a real deep looking blue in that chlorophyll, I'm going to typically go there.
Mm-hmm.
But anywhere it comes over the 100 fathom line, towards your, the mud or in shallow, up on that shelf is where I will go and start my fishing. And that's usually going to be your change of your eddy of coming off the stream, whether it's just blue water or even hot water.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for.
Well, I mean, it's really cool to kind of listen to you talk about these different elements that go into getting located. I think
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, one of the biggest lessons learned was just the sort of gravity of how much goes into getting a yellowfin tuna on the hook, like from
Yeah.
the boat to the tackle, to the riggers, to the way that you're rigging them, to how far back you're running them, to the speed that you're running them at. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's so much to learn, so much to get your head wrapped around. What would you say for you is kind of like a, I don't know, not a breakthrough moment, but just like a moment where you started to feel like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what I need to do in order to get, to get a tuna bite. What would you say are like maybe the one or two things that, like of all the things that you have to do to catch a tuna fish, what would you say are like the one or two things that really matter most? Like maybe some things fall into a gray area, but these one or two things, like you got to get these things right if you're going to catch a tuna.
I would Your bait presentation is going to probably, I would say, be your number one.
Okay.
That I would say ideally, because you can't obviously have a spinning ballyhoo. Yeah, you might be able to get some off the wall color and they're going to hit. Your biggest thing is, hone in on what they're biting. And you'll capitalize on those bites. I mean, some mornings, I had it this year multiple times where, they'd be all on one color. Every fish would be on the same color. And then I had like halfway through the day, it switched and I didn't get
Hmm.
another bite on that color. I got it on another different color,
Hmm.
but every fish came on that color in the afternoon. So your clarity, water clarity, colors, and, overcast days versus sunny days, your colors will change. I usually start my spread with a variety of my normal colors that catch.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do see them hitting just one color, I'll usually add that somewhere else in the spread. And if I start getting doubles now, then all right, now they want that color, then I might throw a third one out even.
It's so
Um,
interesting to hear you talk about color and really spend time talking about it because we noticed yesterday that all three of our bites, one bite we don't know what it was because it came off, and then we had our yellowfin
yeah.
bite and we had our false albacore bite. We had a spread of six rods with uh, Joe shoots with ballyhoos. We had two side tracker bars, and then we had a squid chain. And the one side tracker bar that was pink is the only thing that got hit each time.
Yeah.
And then I sent you a picture of what the tuna spit up, and it was a squid that looks like it was kind of a reddish gray, dark reddish gray squid.
Hmm.
So of everything in our spread, the pink side tracker definitely matched the hatch best of it all. Um,
Yeah. So anytime I have tunas where I know they're eating squids, especially, I always run either reds or pinks because
mhm.
your squids, when a tuna comes after a squid or, I guess they're in danger, I guess is the best way to put it. They
Mhm.
turn a bright red. They turn red.
No
Um,
way.
yeah.
Interesting.
So anytime I've seen balls of squid on the surface that tunas were eating, and they're always red. So I always run red and crystals mixed in for that, and I've always had very good luck on that. Or pinks as well. But I have to say I never ever run my spread without red in it. Something red is always in my spread, whether it's red chain, a red bar, or a red and crystal sea witch. I always have something red in there, and that usually does fairly well for me.
Interesting. And if you could
This
just
year I had a lot of bites on greens as well. A real flashy green, which
okay, you say
I don't know why that
flashy,
was getting.
flat,
Yeah,
flat
real flat.
like a
Yeah,
neon almost color green.
No, it was green with so one of my baits I had earlier in the year was a crystal hair with real flashy like green mylar strips
Mm-hmm.
in it.
Mm-hmm.
That did really well for me earlier in the year. Then I also was pulling this green mole craft, small, like I think they're like 5-inch mole craft squids. And then on the back of it, I had a green Tucci squid with some pearl flashy mylar hairs on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very, very effective this year for me, along with the red and crystal. Those are probably my two hottest colors all year.
Interesting. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear you say this. It kind of hits home for me to think about, really think about color as like something that truly matters. It's not about, you know, the right shape necessarily or this, that, or the other. The color really has a lot to do with it. And then the spinning ballyhoo thing, what typically causes a ballyhoo to spin? Is it improper rigging or
Yeah.
okay? Uh,
That's pretty much it. If you have too much of the ballyhoo like up on the hook and it's kind of arched, I mean,
hmm
think of it like a rubber glove, like your paddle tails. You know
hmm
what I mean? If you put them on a jig head, you don't ever want them hunched up because they're not going to, swim properly. Your ballyhoo, you want your hook centered and you want your ballyhoo to be as streamlined as like you don't want it. You want it to be natural looking.
got it.
I always break my backs. I break the tails, and then you squeeze the poop out of them, and then I cut their fins if they're not laying flat on their body. If their fins are like pushed forward, I'll cut those off so that way they can't cause them to spin. It doesn't always make a difference, but I don't want to risk my bait spinning back there.
Right. So you're
Um,
you're literally just making it as aerodynamic as possible so that as you're dragging
correct.
it through the water, nothing's causing it to jump one way or the other. It's just swimming straight. That makes total sense. Like you can think of
Yeah.
like a paddle tail, like you're talking about. And if you put that thing on the
Correct.
hook even a little bit out of center, it's going to do some weird stuff in the water. Um,
Right.
so bait and presentation, number one, which includes color, properly rigging, no spinning, etc. What would you say is the second thing that you'd pay the most attention to when it comes to trying to get a tuna bite?
Again, it's gonna be with the presentation. It's gonna be your boat speed. You want to be around 6 knots tuna fishing. Some people might call it crazy. I'm very big on boat harmonics, so your engine harmonics.
Okay.
Certain boats catch at a certain RPM. I noticed it on my last boat and this boat. If I fluctuate too much from my normal RPM that I fish, I don't get bites.
Hmm.
There was one day, even this year, Hunter, my mate, this is his first year fishing with me. We weren't getting bites, so I asked him out. I said, "Man, what's my RPMs?" And he told me I was like 20 or 30 RPMs off my normal. I was like, "Oh shoot, let me let me change that up." So I got it
Interesting.
back down, and it could have been coincidence. I don't know, but within 30 minutes, we caught one or two fish. I don't remember if we hooked a single or a pair or whatever it was, but we caught fish.
Wow.
Um, so again, and that could just be because that RPM, makes my bait swim right. If you go too fast, your baits will start skipping.
hmm
If you go too slow, your baits aren't swimming; they're just floating.
Mm.
I feel like, and then I run Sterling tackle tracker bars all the time.
hmm
If you troll too fast, they don't spread out as much, and they just get
Plow.
beat up real bad, and they're not you know having a good presentation for the fish to hit.
hmm
And if you go too slow, they're just floating back there.
Hmm.
So again, presentation I feel like is really everything for it. I also use long wind on leaders, and I use the most heaviest leader. I'll use the 100-pound fluorocarbon tuna fishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the boat harmonics and speed, I'm curious. When you think about, and I noticed this yesterday too, there was times where I knew I was kind of trolling against the current versus with the current, and I was focused purely on my speed. But as you're talking about harmonics, do you give more credence to your boat's RPMs regardless of the speed that it's producing, or do you try to find a balance between that and the way that the baits are looking back there? For example,
I don't.
when you turn to, and you're with the current, I noticed that I would have to slow down 50 ish RPMs to get back into a 6 knot speed range. Otherwise, I would be going too fast when I was going with the current.
So think of it this way: your speed that you're looking at is speed over ground.
Hmm.
We're fishing for speed over water. So the way I look at that is, say you got a north current that's running 3 knots.
Hmm.
All right. If I'm out of that current, or if I'm running, you know, it says the 3 knot north current, I'm going east or west, and I'm making 6 knots. That's my speed at my regular RPM. But if I turn into the current, I'm going to be now making 9 knots. Well, my baits are still swimming at a speed across the water of 6 knots.
That's right. So I really shouldn't
To
have
where if
slowed.
I
I
turn and
really
go,
shouldn't have slowed down.
you should not have, because that means your baits are now moving at whatever 4 knots or whatever you end up, however much you had to slow down. Your baits aren't swimming the same. So, like, same thing goes if you're going against the current. Yes, I might speed up going against the current if I need to make, cover some ground.
Hmm.
But like if I'm in the area where I'm getting bites, I don't touch it because my baits are still swimming for 6 knots, and I'm still at that harmonics that my boat does raise fish at.
Right.
So I will do whether it's 3 knots, 2 knots, 4 knots. I'll make that speed, and what I'll try to do to compensate that is I'll zigzag the current. I
Okay.
don't ever try to just go north or south with it, because you might cover too much ground or not enough ground. Where
Hmm.
if I zigzag, I can kind of go against it.
Right, which would kind of be running a little bit of a north to south pattern when you're out there. I was doing more of an east to west pattern, which was basically I'm either with the current or directly against the current.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Typically offshore, you do have a north or south current.
Okay.
Inshore, you're typically going to be a southerly current, and then if you're in the Gulf Stream, that's your northerly northeast current.
Okay.
Um, but most of our currents offshore are typically southerly
Okay.
of Virginia.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean I don't change my RPM. I control the same exact RPM on my boat, no matter how fast I'm going.
Got it. Got it. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. And I mean, and I've heard people talk about it before with regards to like raising marlin. I know that it's not, or I shouldn't say I know that it's not. I've not heard that it is scientifically proven, but I've heard enough people talk about the harmonics in their boat raising fish versus boats that they don't raise fish on to believe that there's absolutely something to it.
I think there is. I mean, I really do. Because if you go too fast, you're going to put too much white water in behind your boat, too
Hmm.
much prop wash, and that doesn't look natural to a fish anyway. So I feel like you want to go the slowest you can go with making a good fishing speed and have that
Hmm.
harmonics. Like my boat has pretty clean wash behind it, and I catch fish a lot of times on my flat lines or my short riggers. I get a lot of bites up tight to my boat, whereas a lot of center consoles, they get a lot of their bites are on their long riggers or away from the boat.
Hmm.
And I feel like if you have bad harmonics on a boat, or you're not in the right harmonics, I feel like you won't get bites up close.
So that's interesting about, the center console versus the, inboard diesels and the harmonics. I think there's definitely a better harmonic that comes off of, Cummins diesels than your typical gas outboard, as well as like the pitch that's in the water, from those engines. What do you think it is that's different from a noise underwater perspective from an outboard versus an inboard?
So your outboard, typically to make your speed, you're running a higher RPM, so you got a lot more noise in the water. I feel like that could
Hmm.
be a big contributing factor. But again, I had my old center console, and we caught a lot of tunas on that boat. But it was, again, I played around with my RPMs a lot, and I found an RPM where I would get flat. I got marlin bites on the flat line. I got tuna bites on the flat lines, everything on that center console.
Interesting.
But I did run everything further back. Like my flat lines ran fairly far back, but we still got them tight to the boat like that. But that'd be my biggest one. So, like, for example, my center console, I had to run at 1,500 RPMs on both engines to make my speed, and that's where I caught fish. Whereas this boat, I'm only running 720 RPMs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess that bigger wheel, bigger, bigger pitch, more
Yeah.
torque.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moves through the water with less spins. Man, that's
Correct.
interesting. 1,500 RPMs on outboards, and that was on your your 285 Mako?
Yeah. 282. Yep.
282, that's right. And that had at the
Yep.
time what, twin 250s?
225s.
Twin 225s. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yesterday, for example, we were on a 35-foot center console with twin 350s, and the to make 6 knots, we were doing about 1,300 RPMs. Sometimes between that and 1,250, but mostly 1,300 RPMs. But yeah, I would have never thought about the relationship between the higher RPMs. I mean, you're at half the RPMs, which is going to have a dramatically different pitch and tone underwater. And I can think about the way that I've seen cobias respond to different boats in terms of like how long they'll stay up as you get close to them versus others. So I think there's definitely something to that. And if anybody's ever been underwater, like at Lake Gaston or even in a pool and somebody's like screaming underwater or something, like sound is intense underwater.
Hmm. Oh,
And
absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what fish's hearing is like, but I imagine it's pretty good because that's where they live, um, or whatever their sensors are that they pick up sound with. Got to think that they're going to be pretty sensitive to that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just what I've found. I mean, obviously I can't tell you nothing. I mean, we can't talk to the fish. It's just over the years what I've done and what I've experienced and what works for me.
right.
And what works for me may not work for somebody else. I know what I do does work for me, and it's worked on every boat I have fished the way I fish on.
Hmm.
Like I said, but everyone has their own way, and I can't say my way is the right way. I, it's not the wrong way, and I feel like my thought process, and it's not necessarily wrong. It might be overthought a little bit, but I'm superstitious. If I got something that's catching fish, I don't want to change it.
Right. No, I'm with you
Yeah,
there too. Once you know it's working, stick with it. And you've obviously been a student of tuna fishing for a long, long time, and I think the experience is probably the best educator because you can have failures
absolutely.
and then you can regroup. You can think about the lessons learned. You can start to understand what you could do differently, and then you try that, and then you get a different result, and you're like, okay, yeah, that works. I'm going to stick to that. Um,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, I want to hear about this us trip that you had the other day. And if your special lady happens to be listening to this, tell us why that trip was so special and what you got coming up here in a month.
Well, we are got engaged a little over a year ago, and we're getting married in September. And I've been so busy with charters. She hasn't got to fish, but I think once or twice with me this year. So she had the day off work. She just recently changed jobs, and I didn't have no charters, and I was going back on the tugboat that night. So we had pretty weather, and tuna fishing was good. She initially wanted to go mahi fishing, but they hadn't really been around, and so me and her decided to try it out. Just me and her went out pretty day and set out and started tuna fishing, and man, it was fun. It was enjoyable. We just me and her, so I had to use autopilot a lot, and I
Yeah.
got out there. I set the spread out, and so we only ran 10 rods that day,
Okay.
but
Only
I had to
10.
scale back just a little bit. I had to
Only.
scale back a little bit.
So it's just the two of you on the boat, but you still managed to run a 10 rod spread. And here I am yesterday feeling really accomplished as a two-man boat running a 6 rod spread, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. My buddy Dave was
Yeah.
much more keyed in on like what to put where and how far back and whatnot. But so just the two of you, 10 rods. And what did you guys end up catching?
We went 5 for 9 on yellowfin. We had two big yellowfin break off right at the boat. Or not break off, I'm sorry, pull off.
Okay.
And I mean, one of them was an honest 60, 70 pounder, that she reeled in. She reeled in all 7 tunas to the boat, but one. And, I reeled in one that was on the tracker bar. But she fought all of them by herself, and we got that one to the boat. And those bigger ones, I think we pulled off because I had to leave the boat all the way in gear and on autopilot.
Oh,
So I couldn't pump the throttles in and out at all.
or maneuver.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just left the boat in gear on autopilot, or in gear and on autopilot, and I was back there leading the fish for her and went to go gap, and both of them literally came off like in gaps
Oh,
reach. Like I
jeez.
was
Yeah.
getting ready to stick both fish. I had the gap in my hand going into the water, and both of them pulled the hook right at the boat. But
Whereas
yeah, no, she did awesome. Yeah,
if you had
so
somebody behind the wheel, talk us through like the typical, bite happens. Like I know you're supposed to leave the boat kind of in a similar speed for a while, but from a boating and boat maneuvering perspective, what are kind of the things that you need to do during a bite and then during, leadering and gaffing?
So when we get a bite, I leave the boat in gear for a while and I start jigging the rods. I go back there, I start ripping the line as fast as I can on typically my long riggers or whatever's next to the one that just got bit. And you try to entice another bite.
Hmm.
You just called, jigging them up. You try jigging them and you try to get as many fish on as you can. And if I'm jigging them for a while after we get a bite, and I put the boat in a turn, usually a little bit as well. If we don't get another bite, then I'll slow it down a little bit and I'll leave them both in gear till we get stuff cleared out, figure out, what this fish is doing. If it's pull and drag, I'll usually pull one engine out of gear
Okay.
and let them fight. And if they're gaining, I'll leave it like that, but I'll typically bump one engine just in and out of gears, keep tension on the fish, and I leave my whole spread out. The only thing we pull in is I'll pull in my tracker bars typically, so nothing hits them and gets anything tangled.
Hmm.
And then I'll bring in my flat lines.
Okay.
Everything else stays out. So if I got, say, a short rigger bite, all my long riggers, my shotguns, everything stays out. Everything that's behind that fish that got hit stays in the water.
Okay.
Because you try to get a drifter bite at that point while you're fighting that fish. Maybe another one will come up and hit while you're, fighting that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bump it in and out while they're fighting the fish. And I did that for Brittany a little bit while she was fighting hers, when we did that day
Mm-hmm.
until it got close to the boat. But the biggest thing is you just don't want to stop your boat because then your fish kind of can go haywire. Or then when it gets to the boat, it can go under the boat. But I typically, just like I said, I'll keep it, one engine bumping in and out of gear until we stick the fish. And, I'm up in the tower typically when we're charter fishing and I have a mate and I can watch everything that's going on. So he don't even got to talk to me. I just look down and see where the fish is. And I know if I need to speed up, put the other engine in gear or just keep bumping that one. We saved 2 fish this year that the hook was about to rip out of. Because I could see the hook like its lip was literally ripping on the tuna. And I just pulled the boat out of gear real quick and he just pulled up and stuck it. And I feel like if I had him leader in those 2 fish me and her lost or somebody, I don't think we would have lost them if I could have had someone, bumping the boat in and out of gear right there at the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Man, it's cool to
Yeah.
listen to all that because there's so much that's going on and it's like I'm hearing what really sounds more like a tactical mindset that you have to stay in through every maneuver and everything that you do. Like nothing's happening by accident throughout everything that you just described, which again,
No.
only experience can teach. So hopefully, folks that are listening, just throw their hands up and go, you know what? I'm never going to even try to tuna fish on my own. I'm just going to go book a trip on not tugging. So,
I, I recommend anybody getting into it, yeah, it's cool to go do it on your own boat and learn everything. One, there's a lot
right.
of safety factors in it. But definitely go out and learn from a guy, whether it's us or, another boat like Flying Fish, Jake Bolts, he's really good.
Oh
Me
yeah.
and him work together all the time.
Yep.
And we have a good buddy boat system, but whoever you go with, get a guy that do your research that catches fish, especially what you want to go after on your own boat and
Right.
go and pick their brain.
Yeah. Yep.
Learn what you can and then go out and do it on your own.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. That's kind of how I got my start in cobia fishing was Captain Austin Hain. I just said, hey, let me book a trip with you. Hey, let me book another trip with you. And then,
Yep.
several years of, grinding and figuring it out. So it's just one of those things where if it's what you love to do, commit the time to it, expect that you're going to have a lot of failures, but then eventually that one bite happens and you look down at that one fish that finally comes on board and you're just like, dang, that's an expensive fish.
Yeah. Yep. And
Uh,
sometimes that's what it is. I
yeah,
mean, you go out there for that one fish too, and but once you make it all come together for yourself, it makes it worth it.
yep, absolutely. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for the help yesterday on the water. It was invaluable. Felt like it was pretty special to get the bite while we were still on the phone. So thank you
Yeah,
again
that
for
was
that.
awesome.
Folks that are listening that want to get booked on Not Tugging, what's the best way for them to book a trip with you guys? We got some good fishing ahead, don't we?
We do. There's still plenty of fish around, I feel like, and once the storm passes, I have a feeling it'll still be good. But the best bet is always to call or text me, 757-685-6873. And then you can always find us on social media, Facebook or Instagram. And we have a website, nottugginsportfishing.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll drop those in the show notes, folks. That's KNOT, not tugging. Because when he's not working on the tugboat in the harbor in New York, he is down here fishing for tunas. Captain Zach, always a pleasure having you on, man. Thank you so much for letting us pick your
Yeah,
brain
thank
today
you.
and giving us some education and insights into how to be better yellowfin tuna fishermen.
Yeah, absolutely. I can help you anytime. Just let me know.
Awesome. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up a really educational segment talking about the offshore tuna bite and how to improve the odds in your favor. Stick around for a word from our sponsors, bringing this great content to you free each week, and we'll be back with you real soon. Boaters know that the unexpected can happen anytime. That's why Seatow offers 24/7 on-water assistance with priority service for members. Whether it's a dead battery, running out of fuel, or needing a tow, Seatow's fleet is ready to help. Membership includes unlimited towing with no distance or dollar limits in your home area, fuel delivery, jump starts, and more. Plus, members receive exclusive discounts on fuel, electronics, dockage, and boat insurance. With over 500 ports nationwide, Seatow has you covered wherever you boat. Join today at seatow.com and boat with confidence. Whether you're hitting the sand with set rigs using the traditional scent strips for pompano or fishing the flats or marshes for speckled trout, redfish, and flounder, Fish Bites has something for you. They're family owned and operated in St. Augustine, Florida, and pride themselves on making reliably consistent fishing products for anglers of all ages around the world. Fish Bites bait and lures are made with pride in the Sunshine State, USA. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits at fishbites.com. Upgrade your waterfront with Killer Doc's premium dock furniture. Built to last a lifetime in marine conditions. Crafted from marine-grade aluminum with a protective anti-corrosion coating, it's tough enough to handle the elements while providing unmatched comfort. Featuring sunbrella cushions with fast-drying, removable covers, our furniture stays securely in place even in storms. Choose from cabanas, club chairs, love seats, tables, and more to create your perfect dockside retreat. Durability meets elegance at Killer Dock. Check out the full collection at killerdock.com today. Looking to protect your dock with materials built to last? Shoreline Plastics has you covered. As leaders in composite marine dock pilings and building materials, they engineer solutions that stand the test of time. Their EcoPile is the ultimate composite piling designed for longevity and eco-friendliness, ensuring your dock remains strong for years. And if you need a quick fix for worn pilings, try Snap Jacket, a durable solution that restores and extends their life. Visit shorelineplastics.com to discover how you can elevate your next marine project. Shoreline Plastics, where durability meets innovation. All right, well, let's jump into this next segment. You guys have heard him on the podcast several times. I want to welcome back Captain Colt North with Litigator Sport Fishing. What's up, Captain Colt? You're a little tired sounding this evening. What's that all about?
Just a lot of days on the water, but I'm doing good. How about you, Luke?
I'm good as well, man. Um, yeah, tell us about that. Like, what is it like on your body to be out there every single day that it's fishable for, I mean, months on end? Like, how do you tolerate the physical punishment that is being a charter captain?
You gotta love what you do and make the most out of every day. You know, sometimes it's where you fish, sometimes it's what you fish for, and other times it's taking advantage of your days off, which are very few and far between, to get done everything you need to maintenance-wise, and then sit on your butt the rest of the time.
I mean, do you wear like special shoes or back braces, or are you just still enjoying being in, the prime of your youth?
I should be wearing a back brace and probably some more stuff than I do, but I'm just rocking the flops and don't even have a SeaDek helm pad anymore. I used to have one of those up in the tower. I loved it, and I actually have got a new one, but I haven't put it on yet. Rainy day to-do list for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those that are tuning in and just hearing your voice for the first time, tell us a little bit about Litigator Sport Fishing, what kind of boats you guys run, and what your typical specialty is that you offer.
Yeah, so I'm out of Yorktown, Virginia. I run a 26-foot Intrepid and a 24-foot Privateer. Specialize in sight fishing for cobia, bull reds, puppy drum, sheep's head. Pretty much if it's in the bay, we target it with an emphasis on cobia fishing.
Very cool. You just wrapped up some of these kids camps, which I think is so cool that you guys do that, offering this for the kids to get out there. They get to hang out with you. We talked about it earlier in the summer that you guys had them coming up. How did they go, and what were some of the highlights from those trips for the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wrapped up our fifth kids camp of the summer. I was able to put together five this year, 3-day camps, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 to 3, 6-hour trips. Most of my kids that come are doing all 3 days because we try and change up what we do each day. For example, one day might be sight fishing and trolling. The next day might be bottom fishing structure, whether that be a reef or a wreck or something inside the bay. And then the last day we might do some inshore fishing. Kind of play it by year. Some groups I have just really want to catch cobia, and we do that. Other groups want to change it up, so I kind of play things by weather and interest that the kids have. Most of them went fairly well. I know I got a couple of them had one of the days be like a rain/weather day. That was unfortunate, but for the most part, they were pretty good this year. Last one, we really went out on a bang. We managed to go cobia fishing twice and catch our limit of two each time, and each time the boys all caught a fish. So, not just catching our two keepers and calling it a day, but every boy got to reel in a cobia. We started doing some inshore fishing as fall. Fall starts to approach. Our gears tend to shift from the cobia. Well, we're going to keep going cobia fishing until September 20th. Now that kids camps are complete, we'll run back to private charters. But start transitioning into some fall inshore fishing, speckled trout, puppy drum, sheep's head, stuff like that. And had some pretty good red drum catches the last few days of kids camp as well, running around looking for them a little bit. Some caught on bottom, some caught sight fishing. It was really an awesome way to end camp for the summer. Really went out on a bang.
Yeah, I see some pictures with some kids and some big smiles and some really nice class of puppy drum, those like mid 30-inch fish that probably pull real hard on light tackle and give them a blast.
For sure. Yeah, it was great. Some schools we find are, slot fish 20, 24, 26 inches. And right now in this year overall, it seems most of them are over slots in that 28 to 34-inch range, catching a lot of really nice ones. And I expect to see them throughout the fall as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to brag on you a little bit because, we talked about this, like I said before, earlier in the season that you had these coming up and, talked about the importance of doing these and what it means to the kids who are, in that kind of growing and learning phase of life where they're being shaped as men and they're learning character and they're learning integrity and life skills and all that stuff. And this to me is one of those special types of events that they can get involved with where they get to learn from a captain about the fishery, learn about stewardship, and have a lot of fun along the way. But I want to read one of the comments from one of your posts, and I know this is going to make you blush, so apologies in advance. But this gentleman commented and said, "Hey, this camp was absolutely phenomenal and professional. My son loved it and made fishing friends and memories for a lifetime. Captain Colt and his mate Zach were great with the kids, teaching the next generation to be fishermen and stewards of the fishery. They're safe, friendly, respectful, and my kid thought the world of this crew. They went out of their way to teach and mentor. Best camp, best money spent on a summer camp. Highest recommendation. We'll do it again next year." Dude, hats off to you, man. That's a hell of a compliment and just goes to show the passion behind what you were doing.
It definitely was nice to read it at the end of the day, and it's really nice when people notice not just me or my mate, but the fact that we both try and act that way. We have common beliefs on things and common ways of doing stuff, and we definitely try and rub off on the kids. So it was really cool that dad took the time to say that because I do know that his kid was part of the last camp, and we had a great time and definitely taught the kids a lot between the amount of fish, cobia that we released and teaching them, how to revive things, and same with the puppy drum and the over slots and overall common knowledge, safety stuff, and common sense, and just trying to apply things and leave more than just a fishing trip in their head afterwards.
There's a lot of wisdom in what you just said, and one of the things that I love about the fact that you guys go the extra mile for that and really teach that and you embody it. And I feel like it almost, in a way, was a maybe a good omen or a good luck charm leading into this past weekend, which is what I want to jump into next, which is the Y Rock Gloucester Shop with a Cop community fundraising event. Cobia Tournament was our third annual event that's run out of the beautiful Yorktown River Oyster Company. I think that's what YROC stands for. A really cool place up there
Yep.
on Sarah's Creek, just on the other side of the George B. Coleman Bridge. Um, but you guys had a pretty special experience this year. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your tournament experience? What were the fishing conditions like, and what did you guys catch, and where'd you end up in the pecking order?
Well, it was a tough day of fishing, that's for sure. We really didn't have the highest hopes around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I had been all over the place and was just trying to fish like it was a normal day with an emphasis on find a big one, and that wasn't really panning out. Come around 1 o'clock, we'd only seen 4 fish under probably 40 inches. I mean, the biggest one we may have saw was maybe 40. The other three were like 30 to 35 inches. It was pretty sad.
Mm,
We just kept moving around and tried to keep our heads up and whatnot. And it did end off paying out late in the day. We got lucky and found I think all we saw that day was 4 rats, a pair, a single, and then another pair. And it was those last ones that counted, and we executed on our opportunities. And I can honestly say I've caught some big fish in tournaments, and I've placed in some tournaments, but I never have been able to take the win in one. I've the seconds, thirds, fourths, top tens. I mean, finding a nice fish is one thing, but finding a truly giant fish on a tournament day is no easy task, and you always got to admire the people that win it. And I'm just happy to play a part in it. That was a cool experience. It was a really nice fish, and definitely a long time coming. And it
I
was a
can
really cool experience. I can say that.
I can attest to that. I think I've seen you the last 2 years at that tournament, and we're both always like right there in the mix. But then, of course, at the end of the day, somebody brings in something truly big, and you're right, man. To catch a truly big fish is special in and of itself, but to do it on a tournament day is tough. How big did the fish end up weighing?
Our fish was 64.96 pounds, which was the biggest I've ever weighed in a tournament.
Wow.
Um, Sometimes it feels like a 60 pounder is, in the money for a tournament. And sometimes you feel like you're just barely going to place.
Hmm.
Like I said, it was a matter of luck this time. And I'm not going to complain or be upset about anything with the conditions or the fishing for the 6 hours prior that led up to that. I'm just going
Right.
to be thankful for the opportunity and hope it happens another day, another time for me.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this fish in these pictures, I mean, the thing was just as wide as gets from the head all the way down through the tail. Um, I'm curious, what goes through your mind? You said it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You guys had really not seen much worth throwing at. You know, how how do you deal with the pressure of the tournament and the conditions, and that the clock is starting to run out? Like, how does that drive your decision making in terms of like the vibe on the boat and where you're fishing and what you're doing? Does it change much, or do you like how do you deal with that?
That's a funky question, and I got a funky answer because I don't know if there is a set way to deal with something like that. It's kind of an adrenaline rush, honestly, to know time's running out. It makes me fish a little harder. It's kind of like the end of a day of charter fishing, no matter how a day went. The end of the day for me, it always seems to be a finish strong mindset. Even when I'm running in, we're keeping baits rigged up and we're looking. And in a tournament, it's a totally different deal where you're not just trying to catch fish in general. It's just about the big fish. So that's
Hmm.
the hardest part about it. I wish I knew how to answer other than keep your head together and stay positive. Can't let things get to you. Can't let little mistakes get to you. I pride myself in knowing that most fish we catch on our boat and on our boats is due to our ability to capitalize on opportunities as they arise, and knowing that you don't always get second chances. If you mess
Mm.
up something, you're very likely for that to be your only shot. And I was fully and completely composed when we saw that fish, and the wind was just, it was weird. It was like 10 to 15, but almost when you were throwing, it felt like 20. And I'll be the first to admit I threw at that fish, not knowing the true size of it. I really didn't think it was as big as it was. It was a little
Deceiving in the
deceiving
water.
in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little deceiving to me, but that helped me keep my cool. But I must have hit that fish a couple of times before I finally got a cast perfect on her, which is not something I'm used to. I usually take my time on my first chance, and I definitely fumbled around a little bit, but luckily she cooperated and it paid off. I finally did get the right presentation to her, and she definitely cooperated from that point on. But to answer the initial question, that's a tough one for me. I just always try and stay composed and keep my head up, because cobia fishing's unique in the sense that things can go from hero to zero in a matter of seconds, and that's all it takes. You never know when a turtle's going to pop up or an opportunity is going to arise. And I remember when I played sports when I was younger, there was this saying that I had, or that I had been taught. It was what was it? It was a one. No, that's embarrassing. I can't even remember it. It was like a one-track memory. You couldn't remember if, playing sports, say you made a mistake, you couldn't dwell on that and not move forward. You have to have a
short-term memory
focus and put Yeah, I knew there was some other way it was worded, and it was in my head. It's always been in my head, and now I can't seem to put it together. But
I think you can excuse yourself because of the exhaustion of the last couple of days, plus a tournament day.
I am a bit tired.
Yeah, but you're saying the moral of the story is that you what?
Well, moral of the story is you can't let things get to you. You can't worry about the clock. Yeah, you got to know the time and when you got to be in and whatnot, but you just got to fish. At the end of the day, the phrase I'm always saying to me, my mate, anyone with me, is we just got to fish and see what happens and do what we do and capitalize when the opportunity arises. And I'm just, like I said, thankful it happened on a day that it counted for something more than usual.
Yeah, for sure. And I've had this discussion with a couple of people, and a tournament day, especially for cobia fishing, and this comment is not meant to discourage any recreational anglers from entering a tournament. That said, folks that are specialized in cobia fishing certainly have an edge, because there is a certain matter of expertise and preparation that, when an opportunity arises, is going to move the needle of the odds a little bit in your favor. In the previous segment, I was talking to, Captain Zach Castro with Not Tugging about yellowfin tuna fishing, which I really know nothing about. And I just did it for, the first time, myself yesterday, and just hearing all the mistakes that I made and all the little things that I did wrong, like the nuanced things, from like the speed of the troll to the way that I reacted when the first bite happened, to the way that we had things, run out, behind the boat, the distance, there's just so many little things that I was doing wrong that certainly impacted the bite, and with cobia fishing, the same is true. It can be everything from something as minor as the way your drag is set, to how sharp your hook is, to the size of your braid and how far a cast is going to go, to the way that you maneuver the boat when you first see and encounter the fish. I mean, there's just so many little micro things that come into play that are going to be the difference maker of being able to present a bait well, get the fish hooked, and then keep it on the line all the way into the net. And you guys certainly, are an example of doing it the right way, obviously, because you managed to get a 65-pounder onto the scales. But to your point, it was later in the afternoon. It was tough conditions. You guys stayed fishing. You stayed focused. And then finally an opportunity arose, and you guys were able to capitalize on it. I'm curious, with the wind, what was the sea state like? Was it calm, or was it pretty chunked up?
Oh, it was pretty chopped up. I want to say it was blowing 15 all day for the most part, with, I don't know, I guess in the mid-bay it was probably 1 to 2 foot, depending on where you were, 2 foot, a little tighter some places, a little spread out more, and a tight, or a fast wind that wasn't really gusting a whole lot for me. It was just a steady, consistent blow, and it definitely made casting difficult. It made the the sight fishing ability pretty great when there was sun and when everything was cooperating, but it definitely wasn't your average 5 to 10 mile an hour day where everything seems like a breeze and there are no other factors.
Right. And, when there is wind like that, do you adjust what baits you throw in terms of whether you're throwing a fin fish or an eel or an artificial, or do you stick to your normal stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on presentation, like you said. I mean, when you've got something like a fish and far away from you into the wind, the most common sense thing sometimes for me to do is grab something that I know is going to reach it there. And when I'm tournament fishing, we're running 3 to 4 live baits, so there's something fairly quickly accessible, and all our rods are ready to go in a half second's grab notice. And it's definitely a split second decision, because like I said, sometimes you only get that one cast on a fish. If you booger it up, that's it.
Right. I haven't heard that term in a while. It made me chuckle. Don't booger it up. Man, there's nothing quite like being in a tournament, seeing a big fish and trying to stay far enough away to not, bother it or spook it and keep casting into the wind and keep coming up short. And that panic sets in of like, oh my God, is it going to go down? It's going to go down. And then to finally get one there and see it eat is just, man, it's an exhilarating moment. In fact, I can remember last year being in a tournament and watching a cast go off and come up short and seeing the fish swim down and just going in my head, lots of 4-letter words. And then I remember putting my head back to the sky and just being like, why? And in the middle of being like, why? I just hear zzz, 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 and I look over, my buddy's tight, and I'm like, how in the world? He's like, I don't know. I guess it just swam down and found it. I'm just like, my
Oh
God.
my goodness.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen every day. That's the exception to the rule.
It definitely didn't happen to me. I hit that fish in every part of its body except for the mouth, and somehow still got lucky enough for it to turn around and get one more last opportunity on it.
Man, did she act like she wanted to eat, or did you have to coax her into eating?
No. She did not want anything to do with it. The casts I made were fine for your normal fish. She was next level, and that's why she was just getting as frustrated as I was, I think. The last one really did it. So,
Man,
but
so
when I say I made 7 casts, those 7 casts were all fish catchable casts. They just weren't that fish catchable casts. And anyone who cobia fish knows that
oh yeah,
sometimes fish, they're picky, or they're doing their own thing. Their minds are somewhere else, and sometimes you really got to earn a bite.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like I got to put it in their mouth to get them to, actually open and swallow for a second to get that hook in there.
Right, or even like get to a point where you almost like tick them off a little bit, and they like reactionary bite to like move that thing out of the way, so to speak. It's weird
Right.
how cobia acts sometimes, man. I mean, and you said that when you saw it, you didn't really have an idea how big it was. If you knew
We
that it
knew.
was, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, we knew it was a nice pair. It was a pair of fish. I just, due to the sea state and the conditions, I really didn't think it was the fish. So it almost made things easier for me. And, she starts turning and swimming different directions, and it's apparent that it's a nice fish, but at no point did I think it was going to be 65 pounds. I can tell you that straight up honestly right now.
Mhm.
It definitely grew throughout the entire fight. The fight's really when we started to notice the size of it, and it's a good thing that it was only during the fight, because I guarantee it would have been a little more nerve-wracking trying to make, casts on it had I known the true size of it. I just knew when she ate and I hooked her that we'd find out from there. And luckily, instead of being one of those fish that shrinks throughout the entire fight,
It just
it
grew.
grew the entire fight, which isn't usually a common thing for us.
No, it's true, man. There's definitely times where like you'll see them in a wave, and it's just like something about the way that they look in the wave and the way the light's hitting them, or what their long line is in terms of like whether it's higher up or lower on their body. Like sometimes they just don't look that big, and then you'll get a bait on them, or especially if they're swimming away from you, you just sometimes don't have a real scope or idea of how big it is, and then they turn
Right.
broadside to you, or they come up beside the boat, and you're like, "Whoa, I didn't realize that you were her." Um,
Yeah.
and then, talk us through your netting technique, because a fish that size is certainly not easy to put into a net. When you've got a fish that size on the hook, what kind of process do you follow to make sure that you get her secured in the net?
Well, everything on my boat's different from everyone on every other boat for the most part. I actually do all my netting and landing of fish in the bow due to my low gunnels and freeboard. My mate Zach is very, very, very good with our net and knows when to time a fish and knows when that fish is getting tired. And honestly, watching him net that fish was really scary for about 15 seconds because it was kind of rolling up like she was ready to go. And he stuck the net in the water and got her whole head and body inside of it. And when he went to lift, she went absolutely berserk. And I thought for about 5 seconds, I thought that either the net was going swimming or my mate was going swimming if someone didn't grab it real quick. And after a couple of seconds of slightly yelling in all directions, some other guys grabbed a hold of the net and were able to lift her up and pull her in the boat. And luckily, she calmed down a little bit. I got to say, it was probably a 25 or 30-minute fight. It was a pretty long battle.
Wow.
Sadly, on one of my smaller glass rods, which typically is how it works. Smallest rod catches the biggest fish. And biggest and most key thing is tiring out a fish. The longer it's fighting, the longer the higher your chance of losing it is. But also the longer it's fighting, the higher the chance of her getting tired is. So it's just about playing those numbers right and playing that timing right to when you can confidently get it in the net. That and having a ginormous net helps a lot as far as getting a fish in and being able to truly scoop and have her in the bag versus flopping any kind of crazy way. And once it goes ballistic, being able to hold that net on the side and have plenty of room in the net for her to do her thing and get her shakes out, her last bit of fight out.
Yeah. You mentioned that you guys do it a little different than every other boat on the bay, and you're right. I've always noticed watching your videos, you guys fight off the bow and net off the bow, or I guess off the, front quarters of the bow, so to speak. The low gunnels, the low freeboard. As you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself about some of the disadvantages in my mind, because it's like maybe it's a little bit harder to, do some things up there than it is in the back. But I just realized, thinking about the number of times that I've had fish break off in the trim tabs or the motor, that all gets eliminated by doing it that way. Are you fighting typically in gear going forwards or backwards when you fight them up off the bow like that?
It totally depends.
Okay.
It depends on the fish, but I can honestly say, I'd say even sometimes on bigger fish throughout fights, sometimes I'll have it in gear in a circle, in a turn, and sometimes I'll put it in reverse. I always just gauge, where that line is and where that fish is. I can honestly say without a doubt, I have never in 5 years of charter fishing broke off a fish on the back of my boat, and I've never broken one off on the front at any point throughout the fight from anything on the boat. So that was totally eliminated. The also great eliminated factor is the fact that the back of my boat where my ladder is and a lot of my rod holders is, there's so much stuff back there for that net and for people to jam up and get in the way of, versus my bow of my boat is a solid 12 or 14 foot area of just open, low gunnels, plenty of room to work around. Yes, the trolling motor gets a little bit in the way on one side, but we tend to do things off the starboard side when we can. And it also depends, you gotta know your boat when the wind's blowing, and you figure out your boat over time and you learn which way is going to be easier or harder to turn. You know that if you're at a certain angle in the waves and if that fish goes under and you need to move, sometimes you can't put a boat like mine in reverse and turn without literally gunning it, and that's never a good idea. So you really just got to know the boat, know which way the wind's going to move it, become one with it. And a lot of trial and error, a lot of time spent doing it. It's just what comes natural to us. It definitely does not come natural to all the clients. Sometimes people feel a little funky up there, but it's a perfect height for them to pin their knees up, and it works out really well. And a lot better than in the back of the boat, I can say that, because all the things, there's so much less that can happen up there. And it seems that when I've got someone fighting a fish up there, I have so much more reaction time to move my boat when something does change or a factor does change at the end of the fight.
Yeah, you're also able to, as captain, continue looking forward, with the controls in front of you. Like, it's a much more natural view, as opposed to, kind of turned over your shoulder the whole time trying to operate the boat while looking over your shoulder and not seeing what's in front of you in terms of potential waves or this, that, or the other. And, you talk about knowing your boat. I've definitely had a time or two where I didn't really have a choice, fighting a fish off the back, where they make a maneuver in a certain direction, and the only choice is to put it hard in reverse into a wave and, very quickly discover whether or not your bilge pumps work well. because you just take all that water on backing down into, sloppy seas. Whereas being up there off the bow, you're further away from the back of the boat. And if you have to back up, you probably get a little bit more opportunity to do it gently because you got a little bit more room to work with between the front of the boat and the back and the fish. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider. Those that are listening, think about your boat. Just because you see everybody else doing it off the back of the boat doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
Yeah, I definitely have a unique setup, but I do love it. Like you said, I do get to pay attention a lot more. You wouldn't believe the amount of fish. Even though my mate Zach can definitely see further and better than me, you wouldn't imagine the amount of fish I'm able to capitalize on due to just fighting fish in the front of the boat as well and having my eyes and everything
Mm.
paying attention forwards.
Right. And actually seeing them coming, as opposed to just looking over the back and staring straight down into the water. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, for anybody listening that changes their way of fishing off their boat and starts to catch more fish, what's your Venmo handle so they can pay you royalties for? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be awesome.
Man, I just want to congratulate you again. I know how much winning this tournament means to you and your mate and your crew. It's been a long time coming. You guys are always right there in the mix, and I'm just so glad you guys got to bring it home and enjoy that competition and victory after grinding it out all day in tough conditions.
I appreciate it greatly, Luke, and I wish I had some more coming this season. I really do, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to the fact that I only have 6 days left open in September for the year, and that Cobia season is slowly coming to an end. I love it. I really do. I still have a passion for it, but coming on month 2, 3, I'd say we're 2/3 done with the season, and it is definitely taking a toll. I'm ready to switch things up, so I'm really happy to have gone out on a bang and see some of that hard work pay off.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys definitely work hard out there. I don't think there's a way to properly verbalize how hard of a job being a charter captain is because you have to be a mechanic, you have to be an expert, you have to be a tackle pro, you have to be up early to bed late. I mean, it's just nonstop. It never sleeps, and the buck always stops with you in terms of whether everyone's gonna be able to get on a boat, turn the key, and go and catch fish or not. So, I mean, I respect the hell out of you and all of our captains that we talk to because it is such you do it clearly for the passion and not the money. Because if it was for the money, I don't think anybody would be doing it.
That is a fact.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of dates that are available, looks like you've got September 2nd, 3rd, 9th, 10th, 18th, and 19th, which is cool because this year the season lasts through September the 20th. So if folks are listening and want to get booked for one of those dates on the Intrepid, which is the boat you guys won the tournament in, what would be the best way for them to contact you and grab one of those precious dates that is still available?
Yeah, I've got social media. You can message me on my Instagram or Facebook at Litigator Sport Fishing, or you can find me on my website and check that out at www.litigatorsportfishingva.com. Or you can reach me for the probably fastest response by my cell phone number, 757-345-9698. Got those few dates left open, and then I'll be switching gears to the fall fishing, speckled trout, and puppy drum, and then I'll be getting dates lined up for, as early as March and April next year, bull red drum fishing, May, June, July, August, September, cobia fishing, and so on and so forth. So
Awesome, man. It's exciting to hear about all the different types of fishing that Litigator offers. Before we wrap up, I'm curious, and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just polling some of the Cobia captains as we talk to them week after week. I'm just curious. Circle hook or J hook for Litigator?
I I have only ever ran a circle hook a couple days in my life, and I have never gotten to where I trust it or want to use it. I've always stuck with J hooks. J hooks are my thing. I keep it to what I've always done, and it seems to work day in and day out for me.
Nice. Well, there is there's something to be said about if it works and the fish get hooked and brought on board, then you're doing something right. But Yeah, thanks for answering that question and not shying away. I know some folks would prefer to keep their hooks a trade secret, but I'm kind of vacillating right now myself. I've fished with some guys out of Florida that you know swear by the circle hook. I'd say the only thing that has made me from time to time consider going to a circle hook from a J hook has been when I get really frustrated with pull offs, and I'm thinking to myself, it's just got to be these hooks, and then I'll go and look at trying a circle hook. But yeah, I
It could be my ego or my experience talking, but I've found that when I hook a fish, 9 times out of 10 for me, the result of if that fish stays hooked or not is either due to the timing that I'm hooking that fish or due to the way that that fish is eating. Because not every fish we throw at is a hungry fish that's looking for a meal.
right.
So it's different. You're not going to get not every fish is swallowing that bait to its belly. It's not going to be hooked in the back of the throat or I mean, I can't tell you how many different hook placements I've seen lately and the different timing of my hook sets. So I don't necessarily blame my gear for some of my issues if I have them. I sometimes it seems like I go on great streaks where I have no problems, and other times you'll have 2 or 3 days where it seems like you're pulling off 2, 3, 4 fish a day, and it just something feels off. Like I said, it could just be me talking or the ego, but I feel like I have a tendency to blame the fish for that issue in the way that it eats my bait. Or well, not necessarily blame the fish. Either blame the fish for how it eats, or blame myself for how long or how not long I gave it to eat.
Mm, yeah, it's always a tense moment right there when you're watching them eat or not eat, and then enticing them to eat, and
Right.
then you see them put their mouth around it. You don't know if they're going to eat or immediately spit. I mean, there's a lot of times where a game time decision is crucial, and if you if you have a fish that is about to eat and they're acting a little weary, what's like one tip you could give somebody if they're working a bait and the fish is showing some interest but isn't just full on tackling it? What's a tip that somebody could try their next trip to maybe entice a bite?
I like to keep things moving, but that's the one thing about us that we have an advantage of is the further you see a fish, the longer of an opportunity you're going to have on that fish. And the ones that, you've cast at 10, 12, 15 yards off the side of your boat, sometimes things just happen and you end up working that bait all the way to the boat and you still don't get a bite and there's just nothing you can do. So the biggest thing I'd say is give yourself room and the opportunity to change things up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I
Keeping it
just
moving, keeping it on top.
yeah, I just can't say congrats enough for winning the tournament, and I hope you guys just got to relish and enjoy that over the week. Who's your crew? Give your crew a shout out. Who all was on the boat that day?
Yeah, I was sponsored by Wayne Harbin Builder. Zach Harbin's my mate. It's his family's home building company. So his dad and their family decided to sponsor us for the tournament, and we got to fish with his family. So it was him. Him is in my mate Zach, his younger brother Max, who caught the fish. His father, Doug Harbin, who entered us in the tournament, and then a family friend of theirs, Dan Manor. Just a good group of guys that I've grown up now with, hunting with and fishing with, and occasionally fish some tournaments with if I've got them open. Sometimes I open up my boat for, open to charters for booking a tournament, and sometimes I keep it to friends and just play things out. So definitely appreciative of their sponsorship and being able to get out there with some good people. It's always fun when you're fishing a tournament with guys you know and know well, and you can fish well together and everyone knows the deal.
Yeah, that makes a world of difference. It makes it much more enjoyable too. It takes a little bit of the pressure off because everybody knows their job and knows what they're doing. If you hand that rod down, they know how to fight the fish. If a guy's got a net in his hands, he knows what he's doing. And if they've got you up in the helm, they know the boat's going to make the right moves at the right time. And boom, 65 pounds onto the deck. I mean, these days, that's just an awesome fish, period. So getting to grab one of those things during a tournament just really makes it pretty special.
Definitely the cherry on top. That is for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Captain Colt, it's been great catching up. Congrats on some successful kids camps and some great feedback from the parents, and then walking us through that Cobia tournament and that big catch of yours, and giving us a couple of tips and tricks along the way for netting and working baits. It's always a pleasure catching up. And folks, if you're listening, go check them out. Litigator Sport Fishing on Facebook, Instagram, and grab some of those available dates that are left in September. It'll definitely make for a good memory with family, or just get out with a couple of buddies and get on some fish. So, Captain Colt, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for hopping on the show.
Yep. Thank you, Luke, for having me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. I know I'm going to get to relaxing and get back after it tomorrow.
Yeah, man, get some rest, and y'all have some fun tomorrow. Hopefully this storm doesn't do too much to it.
That's right.
All right, man, we'll talk soon. Folks, that's going to wrap up a really cool segment, getting to hear from Captain Colt about his tournament experience. It's been an awesome show this week, getting to hear about what's going on offshore as well as inshore, and the tournament series that's been happening this summer. You guys be safe. Hopefully, folks that are down on the Outer Banks, you're either evacuated or on high ground. And we'll pray that this storm doesn't do too much bad for the fishery. If anything, some good. So we'll be in touch with you guys soon. Have a great week, and tight lines to you. Serious shallow water anglers count on Stay Put Anchor to do exactly what the name says. Keep smaller boats locked in place. Fast, quiet, and without dropping a heavy, noisy hook. Built in the USA and designed for boats under 24 feet, Stay Put's solid fiberglass pole spikes pair with marine-grade bow, stern, or drill-free motor mounts for quick installation. So more time spent fishing and less rigging. Choose from 6-foot to 12-foot pole options and the versatile super handle to stake out on flats, sandbars, or in the pads. Affordable, dependable, and proven by anglers nationwide. Learn more or build a custom kit at stayputanchor.com. Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. All right, y'all, that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free APCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaner Cloth, text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep on whacking them and be safe out there.